Amazing morning. It's Healthy Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Tokwe Mark Odige, and with me are the ladies. Good morning. YK in the building.
Good morning. Good morning. So we don't have light?
Oh.
We haven't had lights? Meanwhile,
the bills will keep coming.
The meter keeps reading. I don't know how meter reads when there is no light.
Spiritual reading.
It is a spiritual thing.
Hey. So you did double liner.
I was just going to say, I'm loving the
Why can't I start to make up artist? In the assistance, you are experimenting.
That's your shoes. You know, it's been a while that I got a pair of shoes from you, so if you finish wearing this one, just pass it. Thank you.
You're too funny.
I want to cut my toes a bit so I can fit it to.
We're not even the same size, Nima.
Okay, you're wearing a wedge. Don't worry, I'll balance it. You not see me.
Oh my goodness, and the weather is really getting hotter and hotter right now. So being without power is terrible.
No lights, the diesel bills. I mean, come on, what's happening? What kind of country are we living in? Seriously, and, well, I don't know.
A very indebted one, and they need to generate revenue at all costs, whether or not services are provided.
No petrol? Kilo day? Only one nation.
Only one nation.
Let me give you good news to relax you. So this morning, I needed a favor from Mr. Zibiri, so I called him in the most bedroom voice. My love, my darling, can you please do this? You see this thing like you did, it's not working for me. Can you please? He said, okay, I promise to do it this weekend. And then halfway to Maryland, he calls back. You see, if you deploy this method all the time, there's nothing I will not do for you.
So we know the way.
He said the tone. I mean that very masculine voice. Can you imagine the kind of assignment you want to give me for the rest of my life? To get something done, I have to be, my darling, my love.
You find out what works and you stick to it.
That is his love language.
I'm telling you, even as you're talking now, my eyes are closing.
Even
like,
you are there.
Whenever you want
is normally aggressive. And you will call him as
I know you'll be on the side. It's because of that. Don't worry.
No, is she a soldier? When she be talking to her husband like a soldier?
I'm an alpha female. There's nothing I can do.
That's in our language is revelation. You have been given revelation.
I've received revelation.
You have received revelation. Mariam, how are you doing?
I'm fine. I have a meeting after, and a meeting with someone I've been looking forward to meeting with for a long time. Doing some garden work, whatever, and I want to step it up a notch. Not just put plants, but really make it beautiful and stuff. And
Mariam is a plant mom.
I need plants for my sitting room.
Oh, okay.
Sitting room plants, and I like palms.
Okay.
Can I come to you?
No problem.
Okay, I've invited you.
Okay. I was going to put you in touch with someone that will get it. Okay. Don't worry. I will handle it. Yes. So.
Yesterday we forgot to say happy birthday to Buki.
Oh yeah, our Buki. So sorry. And we were jokingly saying that we're not going to say it. I'm so sorry. Yesterday.
He reminded me this morning and said, and don't forget my uncle, Elder Oloroshogo Matthew Omosona.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Sir. Happy birthday. All right. So we'll take a picture.
While we are birthday, please, are we closing? And my brother's adopted son's daughter was 3 years today.
Is it
Yamiche, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Kwame's daughter, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, interesting. We've done all the birthdays that we have not done in
a long while.
Yeah. So let's take a break. When we return, we'll go through the front page of the paper. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. We'll be starting off the front page review with The Nation. Major headline. Buhari's declaration in Bauchi. Tinubu is incoming president. And why the North should vote for ex-governor by Lawan Batabiamila. Moving on to other stories. COVID-19. Incoming travelers to provide vaccination evidence. The federal government yesterday announced that the international, in response to COVID. So, things are changing. A very interesting news. Excessive fasting destroys kidney, liver, NAFDAC warns. Farmers abducted in Oshun, caught to DSS, charged terrorist negotiator, Tukom Mamu. We remain non-partisan, INEC assures. electronic transmission stays. JAMB registers 92,490 candidates for UTME. FIRS nets highest ever revenue of 10 trillion naira. And stranded passengers lamented 14 hours flight delay. And you cannot miss the beautiful picture of history that happened yesterday as the $1.5 billion Lekki Deep Sea Port was inaugurated by the President, Muhammadu Buhari. This, they say, would help to boost the economic recovery by the President. All right, what story are we going with?
Okay, I'll start with INEC. So INEC Chairman was speaking with the BBC News Africa, and he responded to a couple of questions that were asked of him. He dismissed reports that the Commission may postpone the polls due to insecurity and attacks on the INEC facilities. He also assured Nigerians that INEC remains non-partisan because there have been allegations that he was somewhat affiliated or was more favorable towards the APC. He says these allegations that have been made of all electoral commissioners and electoral commissions in Nigeria and abroad, but there's nothing like that. They're non-partisan in INEC. And then he also said that results will be transmitted electronically. He mentioned a few of the states that we have done so far and elections that it has been carried out so far, and says based on the pilot experience, they're sure that we're able to do it, in the coming elections. He also said that people, because there were questions about what if there's no internet access and internet is down. He says this is something that can be done offline. Registration and all things can be done offline. And where there may be a network of transmission issue, you take a screenshot of the poll as it is, and you're also able to send it. So he's just saying Nigerians should be rest assured they're going to hand over to us a free and fair election.
Okay, so the Kaduna State High Court has ordered that the DSS should either should immediately charge the terrorist negotiator Mamu Dako to court immediately. The DSS has since September 2022 arrested him, and they've continued to hold him in detention. His lawyers have gone to court. They've gotten a court order instructing and compelling the DSS to immediately charge him to court for whatever charges that they have, or release him. If they have a tight case, they should charge him to court or release him. And so we're looking at that happening. The lawyers say that they expect that he should be charged within the week of following this order. Okay, Mike.
Yeah, the passengers were stranded yesterday because there was at the Murtala Muhammad Airport and the Abuja International Airport, because the ground workers, sorry, why are you people? Ground handling and RAM service workers at the Murtala Muhammad Airport and the Abuja Airport were on strike. They were on strike for 14 hours. But the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company and other people came together to make peace with them. But all the airlines, Air France, KLM, Qatar, Ethiopian Airlines, Air Peace, Turkish Air, Virgin Atlantic, they were all disrupted. So passengers were waiting for like 14 hours. And
I saw some videos yesterday. I said I saw the mayhem, the chaos, the videos. They
agreed to go, because they now, inside the negotiation, they said that the resolutions were that narco avians should withdraw the suit it's instituted at the National Industrial Court against the Workers' Union resumption of negotiation on staff welfare beginning tomorrow, and non-victimization of any worker because of the strike.
So I want to take the NAFDAC story. Yesterday, Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, she gave an announcement that people should fast with sense. That she fasts, but she fasts with sense. She mentioned that kidney failure, liver damage, and others have killed a lot of Nigerians, and that because Nigerians are very religious, Christians and Muslims, that they tend to fast and go 10 days, 20 days without drinking enough water, and this affects the kidney. That if you're fasting, you should hydrate. fast and drink a lot of water because, according to the word she used, homeostasis balance. The homeostasis balance is important for the body, and we put a lot of strain on the kidney. She also spoke about taking drugs from hawkers, buying medicine from hawkers, people selling without not in a proper pharmacy. Those medicines might not be in good condition, and they might also cause more kidney and liver damage.
So Ramadan is less than 60 days now, and a lot of Muslims, I have an auntie, I know she's watching, who doesn't eat. It is compulsory to take that sahur.
Morning breakfast.
It is even advice. If you miss it, it's okay, maybe, but you've intended to fast. But it's not like for you to skip it and say, no, as a part of your fast, it is necessary, because your body is supposed to be refreshed as you're fasting, not punished because you're fasting.
What, you take the what? The sahur?
That's the morning meal.
Okay.
Sorry, sahur.
Moving on to the Punch. Major headline: power outage disrupts APC rally, stops Buhari Tinubu's speeches. In other news, the beautiful picture: Lagos projects jobs as president opens rice mill and seaport. That was yesterday. Nigerians now have alternative to PDP APC. That's from Kwakonso. Are abductors working for highly connected people? That's from the FUNAB graduates. Diphtheria, federal government deploys response team as cases rise. Cash swap, CBN bars Abuja, Lagos POS operators. And federal government forecast fresh flooding in Plateau, Bayelsa, others. Finally, the story we've taken: aviation union strike stirs the airport commotion. All right. Can I talk about our
Please go ahead.
president being in Lagos yesterday? Apologies to those that felt like there was traffic or the roadblocks have really affected them. But whenever the president comes, we know that there will be a bit of challenge with traffic restrictions. But it came for something big, and it's something that Lagos has been working on for a long while, which is the rice mill. He opened the rice mill as well as the seaport. The particulars of the stories that everybody in my industry, the real estate industry, has been marketing with his videos of him doing it, talking about how the real estate space there would explode. But the governor said that this would provide lots of jobs, especially the rice mill and all that is going to happen within that ecosystem. So this is congratulations to the Lagos State government. I know that they are still opening even more projects today. And so people that are going towards the exit, be on the lookout so that you're not stuck in traffic.
I love the fact that they're looking to create more employment, over 200,000 jobs, direct and indirectly. So that's, for me, is just the highlight of the whole thing.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with the Punch. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing the front pages of the paper, and we're still on Punch. So,
yes, a 31-year-old farmer based in Osun State, Samuel Oladotun, was recently abducted with his brother in Osun State. And he was talking to the Punch about his experience and how they were marched from where they were kidnapped. They were kidnapped just as they were leaving the farm. He said he heard a loud bang, so he got out of his car. When he got out, the gunmen were there, and they took them away. They first of all made them walk for 45 minutes. Then they let them rest for a little while. Then they now walked for another 2-3 hours before the third time. And all this time, they didn't give them food and water. So, he said when they asked for water at one time, because his brother was fasting, when they asked for water at one time, they beat them. But one of the kidnappers spoke English and then gave them a little water. And he said they would give them sometimes dried yam or gari, and that it was such a harrowing experience. He believes that the kidnappers are not working alone; they're working for some bigger people. He said when you see the kidnappers, that they're just like maybe they don't even look like someone like people that have 50
that kind of money
50
that they're
naira,
asking for.
50K to themselves.
Obviously.
And then so it's obvious that they're working for bigger people. And he says that the police are not helping. He said because he said there are camps. He said in the bushes, the kidnappers have their camps. So nobody is going in to arrest them. And, you know, while they were there, they could see hunters, you know, so it's not...
It's not like it's some
Isolation.
forest.
Yeah, and when they would see somebody, they would hide. They would hide them under the shrubs. But they had their camps. They would hide the people that they have kidnapped under the shrubs. It was a very harrowing experience. He says he's too afraid to go back to his farm.
Oh.
You know,
It's so sad.
and
But the police always
saying-
say the reason they don't go in is because of the risk to the lives of the people that have been kidnapped.
Well, one thing he said was that the Omotayojo would even be working well, but that the Omotayojo cannot go and handle something without the permission of the police. And police say, government has not given them anything to work with, so they can't do anything. So it's like it's a stalemate.
we are.
It's very, very sad story.
Very sad, and even more sad is the diphtheria, the disease that is spreading. The NCDC reports that we now have 123 cases, and it continues to grow. They are advising people start to vaccinate against it because we already have other diseases that we are dealing with of the same nature. Lassa fever, you know, COVID is still out there. Asking that, you know, we should try and do the vaccines. I'm already checking the records for my kids because I don't know the name of
Everybody
the
does it's DPT.
Yeah. So I just want to be sure that we have done it.
You have.
And if there's an age limit, I
I
think they should
people
be
did not
telling
even
us.
do DTP. I
You
feel
know?
like everybody,
But
it's a free...
sadly, some people go to some clinics to get their vaccines, where the vaccines would have lost their potency by the time they finish dispensing. And we don't follow up on that. So, just sad.
Because most of us get it, I think, is it not 14 days? Is it 6 days? I think it's even almost
immediately after having a
after
child.
you have a child, yeah.
Then you get booster shots after. So the CBN has excluded mobile money and POS agents in Abuja and Lagos from its newly launched cash swap program. This as a result, we know the 31st January deadline for phasing out our old 1,500 and 200 naira notes. And CBN has said that only 5 banks have been approved to engage in the program. They are Access Bank, Zenith, UBA, First Bank, and FCMB. And not all agents can participate. So only selected agents that have been profiled by the super agent, you know, they ask them for their NIN, BVN, all those things. It says not all agents can participate. On the number of states selected for the program, read all the 36 states except Lagos and FCT, Lagos and Abuja agents are excluded. So that means where agents can get new notes will be these are where they can get new notes. So customers would come with their cash, and then there will be a swap. But not all agents. Only they are vetted agents, and also the ones in Lagos and Abuja have not been vetted to participate in that particular program.
All right, moving on to the Daily Sun. Major headline: elections, 3.5 million students won't vote. Will be in school during elections, whereas they registered at home. Nigerians knock varsities, poly for not considering academic break. In other news, PDP insists Tinubu cannot contest in 2023. They head to court. Old Naira note, Nigerians lament over long queues at ATM points. CBN under pressure as deadline draws near. Oni of Ife, demands end to human trafficking. 6 stiffer punishments for culprits. NACO suspends 14-hour strike. International local flights were grounded. And TikTok launches Safer Together with consciousness for its users to stay safe in and off app. What are we going to be discussing?
Elections, 3.5 million registered students may not vote. So we have that no fewer than 3.5 million Nigerian students have registered for the general elections. But as we know, given the long ASU strikes, most students are going to be back in school during that period. And so, you know, there are complaints here and there saying that can schools make it some time available for these children to be able to go back home or wherever it is that they registered, because most of them are leaving, are going to school very far away or in different states from where they have registered. And
3.5 is a huge number.
It is a huge number. So anyway, it looks like they may be disenfranchised unless they happen to be where their polling stations are. And also the INEC Chairman gave some new numbers. He says this year's election is for the youth. He says newly registered voters stood at over 9.5 million people. He says in terms of demographics, 7.2 million new voters, and most of them are young people between 18 to 34 years of age. So
wow.
In campaigning, the youth are your target. Yeah, they're your targets. And then they also said, I think this is important, that the percentage of, we have more women than men that have registered as well. So
TikTok has decided to do an awareness, and I must commend them for that. They're doing an awareness on their safety measures on that app to they brought creators, influencers, parents and users together and teaching them some measures that are put there to prevent the fears that we have about social media, to ensure that, maybe your security code and all of that is done. They brought this awareness, and the Director of Public Policy and Government Relations TikTok in Africa, Fortune Migodi Simbada, was the one who was stressing on this project. It is to erase our fears that we have around it and bring a safer together campaign so everybody can be on the platform.
Sorry, Nema. I was just going to talk about CBN again. CBN have decided to go on sting operations in the banks to see the ones that are not dispensing new notes. Okay. And, they've caught a lot of banks. When they get there, they will identify. Once they've caught them, they will identify and say, look, I'm from CBN, you are not doing this. So they have written, they're writing their lists of all the banks that are not. So sometimes when they go and the banks are doing the right thing, they'll just leave without identifying themselves. But meanwhile, in Kebbi, a lot of one of the customers, he was number 260 on the queue, and he wanted to deposit his money. That they should please help them make this. That he has to come from a far place to come to the only bank there in that area, and he's number 260. They should please help him. He was a staunch Buhari supporter, but this one is as if Buhari is not thinking of the plight of the masses.
Buhari has to be on the queue.
He's moving on. Final paper. We can't take more. Well, out of time, just to read the headlines of the Nigerian Tribune. Petrol sells as high as 350 per litre. Motorists and commuters groan. Abducted local government chairman beheaded in Imo after paying a 6 million naira ransom. So sad. Oshu records first case of diphtheria. Appeal court orders APC to conduct fresh primaries in 11 Benue local government. NNPCL Council stages a walkout in Ararome's 100 billion naira suit. Well, that's all we can take on Front Page Review for today. When we return, we'll talk about something really hot. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us and welcome back. We're going into our hot topic and we're talking about sexual abuse with caregivers. Reality TV star Bami has opened up a conversation that we should have concerning how a personal experience that she went through from when she was 2 years old to when she was 8 years old. She was abused by her nanny. A lot of details that we can't share right now, but really bad experience from being 2 to 8. She said she tried to hint her parents about it, but she didn't know how to go about it properly. And she only came out to talk about it when she was about getting married, and now she's sharing it online. So we're having conversations, and we continue to have conversations because we need to be more aware, because this is a female, a girl to a female nanny, and this also happens between boys and their female nannies as well as vice versa. So what are the signs we should be looking out for when it comes to abuse? How do we properly prepare our children to be able to have tough conversations and sensitive conversations like this with us as parents? Those are the topics we're going to try and analyze today. YK, you watched the video.
Yes, so I watched it. It's very sad, very sad. She was between 2 and 8. Obviously, the nanny too, because the nanny from her story was only 18, was probably a child who had been abused and now started to abuse another child. And it's unfortunately, it's what happens, you know. I don't really know, because I'm not a psychoanalyst, I'm not a psychiatrist. We would need a child psychologist here to actually delve into how we can get our kids to talk and stop them from being abused, and what are the signs we should look out for? Because I think that's the most important, is looking for the signs in your child. Maybe they're getting depressed, they're getting, they're always frowning, you know. All those, you know, those are I think the signs that we must look out for. It's such a sad story.
Yeah.
So because given her age, she says between 2, so she's really young, probably not being able to express herself, had not even learned to speak. You know, there are different developmental stages for different kids. And if she was also a nanny that has been with them since she was a baby, you know, there's that trust that the family would have. So, you know, raising a baby involves a lot of intimate holding, and, you know, you pick up a child, put the child on your chest, put the child on your back. And if you trust someone, it's not likely to ring a bell that there might be something extra going on. So if a child has been raised by the nanny that's always carried her closely to her chest or carried her on her back, and then now have her, when the parents are not watching, goes ahead to breastfeed her or force her, you know, so it just says that at the early stage of a child's development, where the child cannot speak for themselves, parents need to be very vigilant and very involved. The way that we live our lives now, father and mother out, you know, going to work, and they need the help of a nanny. If they don't have nanny, they ship them off to some caretaker or to creche, and all sorts of abuses happen. The only thing will be, are we going to sit down now and just rethink how we are raising our children and how we are in our careers? When we ask for time off, the maternity leave, should we get much longer than 3 months? The paternity leave is important as well now in this conversation. So when the mother has to go back to work, is he there to, you know, stay until maybe we should be able to leave a child when they are able to, even if it's to point or just say it in a few words what they may be uncomfortable with. Because how does a 1-year-old, 9-month-old tell you that what is happening to me is wrong? They can't, unless you are watching.
Lagos State, and I'm not sure about Lagos, but Ondo definitely have instituted into law that at least 6 months maternity leave, and I think that's a step in the right direction, even though I think it should be at least a year. You know, maternity leave.
Honestly, so Nima, let me hear your thoughts on this.
Okay, so as a parent who has to leave her kids myself, I'll just say, well, just like what YK said, continuous watching, checking, and, you know, guarding. I used to crawl into my neighbor's house when I had to leave Imran at 6 months. So a few times, I was caught by her husband and they'd be like, I saw you peeping. I'm like, no, I wasn't peeping. I want to take something there. She said, yes. That's how you did 6 times now that I've seen you picking up something there. And these are my family friends that I would say have trust for. But just as a mother, you know, you trust them, you've known their family, they operate an open door, anybody comes in and goes out. Every time I come in, I see my child in the car seat watching cartoons, and I would still crawl home. I would still check again and check again. And then sometimes I'll just start a conversation because kids have this, they have a beautiful mind. Start a conversation around something and maybe start like a movie. I'm like, this child, so that you see whether your child will empathize and share something with you. Just out of my worry until I started feeling a lot overwhelmed, I didn't stop it. But I think it's better off than to be caught off guard like this. Because I heard Bambam's story. She couldn't express, she was trying to use body language to express to her parents that she wasn't safe. One of such signs is that, okay, for instance, my child was walking down the road and a neighbor just pulled her, a male, and he was laughing and, fine girl. And she was like, don't touch me. And he was like, why is she so aggressive? I said, please. She doesn't like being touched. If that's her protection, don't touch her. She said you shouldn't touch her. No, they play with her.
Don't play those kind of play.
She doesn't want to. It was an open place, and some would have said it was it was nothing, it was not harmful. But she didn't like the touching. And I don't know how many kids that would like such, but she didn't want it. Some of those signs will let you know if a child is not comfortable around the person, even though you trust that person. If, for instance, there are some children who like to cry, but there are some who, no matter what you do, they don't change their minds. They don't just feel that comfort. Check it, double check it again and again. You just don't know. You know, because at that age of helplessness, that's the one that is most heartbreaking. When the child cannot even say anything, when the child cannot even fight or say, and they are struggling to communicate with you. You are the only
one. I really like
where
Mariam went to. You know, Mariam spoke about, well, in my word, let me rephrase it. I can't quote specifically, but reanalyzing our priorities as parents. Because if you've taken the responsibility of bringing children into the world, then are we not meant to make the necessary sacrifice to protect them as much as possible? A lot of the comments that trailed this was about, that's why for me, housemaid is a no-no. I don't want nannies or anybody in my house. But the truth is, for some of us, we really need the help. So it's about analyzing. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the modern woman, the modern family system, and analyzing our priorities. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're discussing a sad story about sexual abuse by caregivers on children, on minors. And we started discussing it because a celebrity reality TV star came out to share her own story of how she was abused, and she was doing this to say no to pedophilia. And we started talking about analyzing our priorities as parents when we have children. And Mariam started it off by talking about this modern times. Times have really changed. And YK is always sharing about how when she was raising her daughter, when she had her mom, she knew that, okay, my mom was around. And when she didn't have her mom again, she made the necessary sacrifice to stay with her daughter. But how many of us can actually do that right now? YK, what do you see as the difference between how you raised your daughter then and how we are going about it now? How you are with a lot of us here, so you...
I don't want to cast aspersions or judgment on anybody, because you do what you do because you have to do it a lot of times. Like now, a lot of times now you have two working parents because one parent cannot carry the burden alone. Because I was thinking something to myself the other day that if I have a child that wants to get married to a girl that is not working, will I like it? You know, because is it my son that will carry the whole burden by himself? Because the life and times that we live today, the burden is heavy. You know? So how can I now be the one to cast aspersions on that person? She wants to be a housewife. My son is going to carry the whole burden by himself. Whereas in our day, well, in my mother's day, the mother sometimes didn't have to work. She could look after the kids at home. How can we balance it? You know, I don't know how to balance it. One of the things I would do if I was a parent is get cameras, and I had to work. I'll get cameras in my house that will be attached to my phone. I can view my house all the time. And I promise you, I will be on that phone. In fact, a guy will be asking me, Auntie, you dey work? Because I go dey check me. What are you doing with my child?
That. I really love that because I was writing down modern parenting in modern times. Times have actually really changed, and I like the perspective you have. But we have a practical example. Like Nima is dealing with something right now, and then she's on the show, and you know life happens like that, and you start asking yourself, maybe could I have done this better? And it's a struggle not to live a life of no regrets. And many mothers, especially modern mothers, who want a sense of fulfillment, find themselves trying to strike that balance and protecting their children as well. Mayam, how would you advise someone to go about it? I love YK's idea about putting CCTV using technology.
I think that's the only thing. The other day I was in the salon with a mother and she was saying, she was looking in her phone and then she used another phone. Why have you people left that corner? I want you people to stay in the corner. So obviously, so she says that there are particular places where the camera is. And so she insists that the children and the help stay in those corners where she can see them. And she had to come and do her hair. And she's not even a working, like a 9-to-5 mom. She does her business from home, but she had to take time to go out and keep her eyes on the child. So you're right, times are changing, so we need to find different methods to meet up with changing times and also in raising our children. And also, let's not forget that a negligent parent is not yes, that a woman is a career woman does not mean she's a negligent mother. After all, we have some people who are stay home and they're negligent because they are not even watching the children, they're on their phones, they're on TV. So when we say that a parent needs to be involved, we're saying even as the stay-at-home mother, your eyes need to be open. And as a career woman, you would put in the necessary things, you know, to help you stay present and be involved. What your career may provide for you in terms of money, and that means more resources to be able to get all these technological state-of-the-art things to keep an eye on your child. For that person who has less funds because they've decided to sacrifice their time and career and to stay, then you have to put your eye and do the job. The only thing I'll say about modern times is that sometimes we're moved by things that are not so important. Why are we really pushing that career or going the extra mile or doing that travel? Is it really about our career, or is it because we want to be able to buy the next, you know, big thing, something to show up for, show off? We have to remember what's important. If I don't need to do the extra, take that trip, or be away from my children at that period, if it's not that important, if it's just really about, you know, the luxury, then let's put that aside and face the children. I find that these days, the children are not our focus, but how we can show off to each other the things that we have, you know, the things that we're doing. Me, I'm not a sit-at-home. I'm not a sit-at-home mother. Yeah. I'm a career mother. To what end? Are you a career mother because that is who you are? That's what you want to be. That is, you know. And when you do that, you'll be able to do it more wholesomely. But if it's just to show off to someone, there's so many things that you'll be losing because you're trying to just show off.
Honestly.
But a lot of times it's not just because of the career. Sometimes you need 2 paychecks in the house.
Yes.
You know, sometimes...
But do we?
I think, well...
You know what she said? When you ask yourself, we must ask all the questions. In some cases, we don't, but we would love to, as women, to have our own.
I agree with you because if my husband is giving me money, I want to be able to say I have my own money. I don't have
As
to
well.
depend on my husband's money, so I must work. You know,
I don't want people to
I
insult
don't
you.
Why
want-
did it become necessary?
Because they were
men
insulting.
thought it was power.
Yes.
Disempower the woman who is doing so much in the house, but tell her that she's not doing anything. And then, because you're providing, you think, oh no. We had a caller the other day say, men provide and Sunday must be the head, as if what the woman was doing wasn't that
Was not
important.
enough.
And so women thought, I need to get my own life. You don't want to be caught at a divorce with 4 kids, helpless, and the man is saying, and I will not provide for you people. Maybe you want to divorce me. And then she's suffering domestic violence. The issues are endless. I was sitting in my house one weekend and I had someone who's doing a job of under 20,000 run to my house that she left her child with her husband, and by the time she came back, she saw petroleum jelly on her child. And the child was only with her dad. And I said to the woman, let me report it. She said, please, no. It wasn't she's the only provider, and all he does is sit there, and he cannot even still sit with children for them to be safe. The issues are endless.
petroleum jelly for what?
You know, just
some areas
suggesting on the pubic area of the child. So we know these things are endless. They are not even, it's not today we will start to talk about it. They are endless. A mother who is singularly providing for 2 children has a husband who is useless. Let's just say it as it is. If you cannot provide for your family, enough for your wife to stay home with the kids, and yet you cannot even keep them safe, are you a husband?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the woman now has to be at a job where she has to resume at 6 a.m., rush those children somewhere else, and then I just couldn't help her.
So let's talk about reporting the situation, because there are cases you've gone into a story about where even a parent was at home, but he was absent. So there was proximity without presence.
And he could have been the abuser.
And he could have,
abuser too.
and he might even be the abuser. And we've had cases where people are at home, but they are not there. We have aunties abuse. A lot of men talk about how their first experience was with an auntie or someone that was living in the house that the parents felt would help me watch over this boy, ends up being the one that is the first intimate experience that the boy is having. So it's not really, I want us to move it because we've analyzed the fact that modern times women would work, but sometimes you are at home, you are present, and you just stepped outside, left the child with your younger sister or with your very good friend, and something happens. I feel another very key part of this situation is that we don't report these issues because we're trying to cover up the abuser, and the abuser perpetuates it on and on with other people. So where is the place of reporting a family member that abuses minors? Because sometimes we think we want to protect the minor. We don't remember that there's trauma. Because this lady said that whenever she's having intimate relationship with her husband, she still, it flashes through her mind. So she still goes through the trauma until she probably heals through therapy.
So the system has to be up and doing. The system is not just to punish the man and then not protect the woman. Sometimes, like in this case, I thought I will have to inherit that family to be able to get that woman to report. And then she thought of, okay, the stigma, because of where she's from. She was really okay, kind of people, if she reports it, things will just go from bad to worse. In-laws will come in, people will start. She refused. She said it will be worse. Let me just, so I said, anytime you're going and carry that child with you wherever you're going. She couldn't sustain that. We had to find a crèche. Even somebody has to pay extra. So the system has to have a pause somewhere where these cases are reported. The system takes a whole lot of burden off the person reporting so that they don't have to go back and beg their abuser to continue to provide for them.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue with this conversation, and we'll take calls and messages from social media. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're still discussing sexual molestation by caregivers, and we'd like you all to join the conversation by calling us on 081-270-53687 or 091-3 390-76948. Right there on the screen. We'd like to hear from you. We'll also be taking some tweets and, like Waike says, tubes. So, it's not a funny conversation. Right within the show, I had to send my husband a message that we need CCTV in the house. He said, where did this come from? I said, we're having a discussion around child molestation, and I realized that we're not around and we haven't deployed technology to help us. So it's important that we have these conversations because we've discussed it before, but we discuss it over and over again because someone watching might just be triggered to do what is necessary to avert another crisis within their household. Before we went on break, we were discussing how in some cases we're not reporting molestation enough. We're not reporting the abusers. And when we don't report the abusers get away and are able to perpetrate this same evil circle in other places. How do we change this culture of saying, pamisile, ma pamisita? What that means is, hurt me at home. Let's cover it up. Don't let everybody know what the problem is.
I think Nima answered it best when she said that when it comes to cases like this, it's a two-way thing. It's not just about the punishment of the perpetrator, but also the protection, sustainable protection of the victim. And where there's no system where you know that you have a safe haven that will help you to thrive or even survive, you know, when you're away from that abuser, you always find everyone considering, you know, their circumstances. Many times the reason why people don't call out, especially if the abuser is also the breadwinner, when many people don't call them out, is because you're looking at it and trying to think, the sexual abuse of my child, or me leaving this place, and then there will be hunger, there will no school fees, you know, nothing. So why don't I just stay here? And then you lie to yourself, I will stay here and I'll watch, I'll be more vigilant, you know, until one day they beat you and lock you out and, you know, and demand that it's my child. So the system needs to be such that we provide a safe place, a system. A woman comes with a problem like this, who does she go to? What do we provide for her? After she's reported and the person has been punished and incarcerated, do we make sure she has a job? Does government provide some sort of care? I know they talk about other, Waike would be able to better tell us, like other countries where you're able to get someone to come watch your child while you go off to work. Maybe things like that. I don't know, but our problem is so deep-seated. It has to do with it's poverty, it's lack of education. All those things come together, and then we have situations like this where you find yourself so helpless and not knowing what to do.
Sorry, Nima, I know you want to talk, but I just wanted to say we need to realize that people who abuse children have a mental problem. So when you think that you are protecting them, don't put my secret out there, you're actually, by reporting, you're actually helping the person. Because that person is either, like this girl, a victim of abuse who needs help, or you have some mental challenge that it is a child that is attractive to you. So you have to remove that person from any where you
to such people.
So don't even say, oh, I don't want to bring my secrets out. You have to bring it out to help the person that you are trying to protect.
Protect others. So if, for instance, you bring it out, at least other people will know to be careful around this person, which is why there's a sexual abuse register, sexual offenders register, so that people can vet people. That way we can reduce the mentally retarded ones who think it's okay to be sexually abusing others to a group of people we can control their spread. That's the reason. There's no permissive arrangement here. The only person to protect is that victim, who before they know it, or without them knowing it, that becomes their sexuality as well. They grow into it. The dangers just continue to grow. So it's not a decision an individual takes. It's a societal decision. Something a group of people say we stand against, we provide protection for, and against. There shouldn't be a disempowered mother, disempowered parent anyway. Parenting is even two people's job. I've seen where fathers are the ones who discover the abuses of their child, of their children. But when you say, okay, it's a woman's job, let me just, the child will be there, the child will not be able to express themselves, and maybe you're the person they would express themselves to as a parent. So it's a joint effort, it's a collective thing that everybody must sit up and do.
Even in boarding schools, I know you have to go in a big, but even in boarding schools, they abuse children.
Yes.
We're actually rounding off, and I'd like you to, if we have any message on social media that would just be our final one, I want to just say that whenever we do shows like this, it's an opportunity to act on some of the decisions that, or some of the lessons you're learning. And for me, one of the lessons that I believe everybody should learn now is how to have that conversation with your children, how to initiate the conversation to let them know you can tell me anything. Don't worry, this is a no judgment zone. Whenever we enter into this corner or we get into this room, anything you tell me, I'm not even going to beat you. I won't get angry. We can create that safe space. We have a phone call.
Okay.
Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Kano from
Awesome. I've been waiting for phone call so much. Immediately I heard you were on the phone. I was like, yeah, let's get you in the conversation.
Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Very well. Please don't listen to yourself. Listen to me.
All right. Just like you people are saying, this is a very important topic that we all must pay attention to. It happens every time my housewife is saying about the mental state of those who are perpetrating this crime. They should be given adequate medical attention as well. Because most of the times, when we tend to want to cover this up, they keep doing this thing. The victims keep suffering. Why they themselves, they may not really be aware, fully aware of what they are doing.
Well.
So good medical attention also is.
I really couldn't hear you well. I think he was saying that we should pay attention to not the survivors, the perpetrators as well, that they also need help. But
So he says, you people carry on as if working wives is the only valid norm or is necessarily advantageous. One can make a robust argument to the contrary, and how come there's no full-time housewife on your View TVC? Absence of diversity has always been the show's Achilles heels. Unfortunately for you, you're mistaken. I am a full-time mother. My husband can be doing his career, but I give up every appointment, even social life, when it comes to my kids all the time.
it's not even about that. But the point is, once they're on this show, they're already working.
Yes. So when the kids are in school, you can do something else. You can leave them much earlier, but you return home. Some people don't have another life aside their kids. But can you say the same on the other side? And yet, even with that, no matter how you shine your eyes, you can have things happen. So what we are talking about is how we're dealing with it. How is the society providing for it,
Dolani Roberts says, the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Parents can make a difference if they pay attention to what's going on in their children's schools and at home. And I love that. I think that's very profound.
That summarizes my life.
Yeah, it's eternal. You just have to be vigilant. See, there's no go. You want to go and work. Better put camera in the house.
The crab's eyes are on the head for a reason. His hide, they used to wash. You put it on the head. Don't put it on.
So I have another call. Idowu has called in from Egbeda. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to contribute on this matter.
Please go ahead.
And my contribution is this. Now, it's not only girls that is being happy. Like my husband told me, he's been abused since 6 years. That a neighbor that is an auntie will put him on his lap. And that is how he got exposed to sex. So I'm using this to tell ladies that we should also be careful. We shouldn't say, okay, they are boys. Nobody is abusing them. Okay, a boyfriend can also play. After all, they are friends. No. You have to still keep an eye on them. Thank you. That is my contribution.
And then men abuse boys as well. Yeah. Not even just women. Men abuse boys, women abuse boys. So the children. So it's not girl child, is children. It's not the girl child.
Yeah.
Children in general can be abused.
by
So
anyone.
vigilance, like Dolani Robert says, is he's the key word.
Honestly,
You have to be vigilant.
and that's and it's on that note that we'll round off this conversation. Every parent, be vigilant out there. If you are not physically present, deploy technology. And if you can't afford technology, then make the compromise by being more present and being vigilant. And finally, get that conversation started with your children so that they'll be more comfortable with opening up with you. That's all we can take. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue on Healthy Tuesday. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Today we'll be celebrating one of Nigeria's finest neurosurgeons, Dr. Omotayojo. Last week, it was trending all over social media as the successful procedure he performed on the popular social media medical influencer and content creator, Dr. Chinoso Ebemba, popularly known as Aproko Doctor. There was an outpouring of encomium showered on him, his work and personality. He'll be speaking to us about tumor, and most especially brain tumor, the possible prevention, management, and the procedure to eliminate it. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
How was the newfound popularity? Everybody talking about you, your celebrity status.
Well, I think it's good. It has brought a lot of attention to neurosurgery in the country. And I hope that many people would seek intervention early so that they can all be better off from the problem. All
right. So to join the conversation, call us on 081-270-53687, or you can call us on 091-390-76948. Let's bring you back to the real topic.
Okay.
Brain tumor. You know, Aproko Doctor's story shocked everybody because we felt like, hey, you're the one teaching us about how to be healthy, and we're looking to you like you're the healthiest person, and suddenly you have a brain tumor. So what are the things that trigger brain tumor, and what can we? Yeah, let's just start with that.
So just to talk about the overview of brain tumors, there are two different categories of brain tumor. There is a primary brain tumor, and there is a metastatic brain tumor. Primary brain tumor means the tumor originates from the brain itself.
Okay.
Metastatic brain tumor means the tumor is coming either from breast, lung, and other parts of the body. So, brain tumor is something that nobody should have. And when it does happen, the earlier it is picked, the better. Because when it is seen early, then it can be treated with minimal complications. To answer the question, what causes brain tumor? For the primary brain tumor, nobody knows. It's not what somebody is doing or is not doing, what he ate or didn't eat. It has nothing to do with lifestyle generally, especially the primary one. It just starts sporadically, meaning anybody could have it, unfortunately.
That's, I don't even like that.
With the metastatic one, that one, if you get, maybe if the person has cancer in the breast, then it can transfer to the brain. That's the metastatic one.
Exactly. So for people that had breast cancer or spine cancer or prostate cancer in men, or sometimes cancer of the womb in women, it can transfer to the brain, unfortunately, even though in some instances they've had all cure for the primary tumor. So it can happen.
Happened to my friend. Very, very traumatic.
You know how with the breast tumor, they'll say check yourself. But how do you check a brain tumor before you go by yourself?
That is the problem with the breast. I mean, with the brain. It's difficult to pick. For most people with brain tumor, what they would have first will probably be headache. And if you put it in perspective, many people in Nigeria would
Already
have
have.
headache at one time or the other. Driving
Some on
from
a daily
mainland to
basis.
highland could give headache. But headache that persists and wouldn't go away needs to be checked. And from headache, it could progress to other problems like visual problems, like being forgetful, and unfortunately can lead to seizure. So we've talked generally to people. If an adult would have a seizure for the first time as an adult, it's brain tumor until proven otherwise, 99.9%.
So, but if by the time you have the seizure, that already means, doesn't that mean that it has advanced to?
Not particularly. So when we talk about the presentations of brain tumor generally, it depends on the site.
Okay.
There are some parts of the brain that a 1 centimeter tumor would give seizures. It depends on the size. There are some parts of the brain that the tumor has to be at least about 5 to 6 centimeters, which is probably the size of an egg, before the patient would know. So basically, it's the site, the size, and what is the structure of the brain that is very near to the tumor. So for instance, if there is a tumor very close to the optic nerve,
Okay.
it will present early with visual symptoms.
Okay.
If there is a tumor that is very close to the motor strips of the brain, so what that means is different parts of the brain have different functions. So if it's on the part of the brain that subserves motor, the patient will present with seizure early. If it's in the salient part of the brain, it can grow very large, taking probably half of the brain before the patient may even present.
So because laymen are watching, and I'm wondering, the brain is usually protected by the skull. If you now have a small something on the, maybe like a swelling between the skull and the skin covering it, that's out. You just maybe you should feel a dark, thick something around your head. Could that possibly be a tumor, or does it have to be
Inside
the skull?
So that brings us to another classification of the site. There are some tumors that are right inside the brain. There are some that are outside the brain tissue but still in the head. So for those type of tumors that are not particularly within the brain substance but in the head, there is a possibility that there could be pain on the head, and the person can put finger on it and probably feel that there's something going on there. And that is quite common with metastatic brain tumors because it would involve the bone early, this particular type. And by inference, it could get to the skin, there could be a swelling, then pain, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, if you detect a brain tumor early, do you always have to go for surgery, or you can treat it without having surgery?
Can it resolve itself?
So the general answer would be yes. But the practical answer would be that there are some that are so small, still in the brain, and we look at the progression and we could say that it's unlikely that tumor would affect the person in this lifetime because they grow very slowly. But any tumor that is found to have been giving some symptoms will probably need to be excised. And to answer the question, the earlier the better. It's unlikely anybody would have brain tumor and the doctor would say, no, don't do anything. But what we see is people with brain tumor will be so careful and afraid of surgery, and they will hold back making a decision.
Worse.
And in another 1 year, you do the scan again, you realize that the tumor had grown bigger. The problem now is that the bigger it becomes, the more complex the surgery would be. So what I could remove in 1 hour a year ago could probably need about 2 or 3 hours in another 1 year. So the earlier it is done, the better, number one. The earlier it is done, the safer. Because if it is small, I can take it out without having to go through other brain tissues. But if it is large, then the chances are there will be some complications, or likely complications.
So I think the fear for us is head.
Brain.
Even when you bang your head, it's just so scary that it will involve getting through our skull. Like, if you break our skull, what is left? Then we are gone. So could you maybe describe to the layman how careful and what the procedures are to keep you safe and alive after the surgery?
So The first thing I would say is that technology has gone far, far, far beyond what we used to talk about 10, 20 years ago. The myth out there is that once the head is opened, you're never going to be well. That is not so anymore. The technology as it is available, even in Nigeria now, would allow brain surgery to be done in many places and to be done safely. So if there's a brain tumor, we want to find out what it is. Some tumors are very close to the surface. You open the skull, you see the tumor, you take it out, then you put the skull back.
The way you do your hand,
It's
like you
surgeon.
open.
Neurosurgeon.
So there are some that are deeper down,
Okay.
that you open the brain, you look at where the tumor would be, then you decide the best approach to the brain. Because like I mentioned earlier on, there are so many tracts in the brain, and you don't want to go through the track that will make the patient worse off after the surgery. And this comes with planning. And I would say that in the country now, there are so many neurosurgeons, and they are doing all these procedures safely. And if anybody has that diagnosis, the earlier it is removed, the better.
Okay, I wanted to ask about the possibility of a regrowth. After a removal of a tumor, is it possible? Or with the brain, does it never grow again? Or is it possible that there's a regrowth, and what happens to that?
So let me classify the brain tumors into two. There is the benign brain tumor, which means if I removed it completely, it is never going to grow back. There is the other half, which unfortunately is about 75%, which is malignant. That whatever the surgeon does, the chances are that the brain tumor will grow back. So usually, after such surgeries, the patient may have to go to the oncologist to give radiation or to give chemotherapy. So for many of these tumors, if it is well removed, completely removed, the chances of coming back is small. But I will also say that, if somebody had cancer of the leg, and you know that you could come back, you can sacrifice the leg. If it happens in other parts of the body, you can sacrifice. But just like you said, for the brain, you can't just cut off the head. So you still have to go in, take out some of it, as much as you can safely, and send for chemo or radiotherapy.
I met someone over the weekend who had cancer, and he was stage 4. And he went back to his village. And they started giving him herbs and different things. And then today, the cancer is not detectable. He's okay, he's living his life as if he never had cancer. So there is that group of people who believe that whatever I have, let me just go to my village. There are herbs that I can take. Now, I know that doctors don't believe in this, in herbs. You are more, we must use the knife to cut. How can they work together? Because I am one of the people that would rather go for, God forbid, that I have anything like that, but I would rather go the traditional way, the herbal way, before I use a knife to cut. Because I'm also one of those people that believe if you cut this place like this, it can never be the same again. There will always be a scar there,
So I would address that.
Please do.
I believe that out of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established. If you chose to go through the traditional routes, I will advise that you check it out in the orthodox way. So if somebody had brain tumor and decided to go traditional, we have never been able to document such. I would advise that he gets a medical report or do appropriate imaging to be sure that it was brain tumor ab initio.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was a brain tumor. It was
Okay,
cancer,
it could be any cancer at all. You appreciate there's a lot of money being pumped into cancer research and education worldwide, where they had limitless amount of money to spend. And they have not been able to document that just taking herbs will make it go away. I am not saying it is true or it is not true, but I would advise that we'll have something to document that indeed it is what it was said it was.
So let me take you back into this surgery and the reason many people are scared, when anything about the brain, we feel like our brain controls our sanity. If anything,
We are our brains.
we are, yeah, it's about sanity. And at any point when doing such surgery, is there any concern for how removal of this tumor might affect other areas of life, ability to function well? I think I had a neighbor maybe 7 years ago, an old elderly man who had a brain surgery, and I never knew that could happen. They took out a part of his skull, and they were going to go back for the surgery again. So he was telling us that if you press his head, you could actually press his brain, because they were going to go back to the US and continue that surgery. So they just stitched it up. I didn't think that was possible. And we're talking to people that don't understand these things can happen, like they can open up your brain. So in a breakdown, can we go through all these medical processes where they open the brain, come back, health, body function is still okay? Or are there times where you sacrifice a bit of body function so that the person can still remain alive?
So all the options you mentioned are correct. Sometimes you may need to sacrifice a part to take out the brain tumor. Yes, it is true that at surgery, the brain is just like a box. You can take part of it off. You can decide to replace it immediately. You can decide to replace it later, because once you take out the tumor, the brain might swell, and you don't want the pressure in the brain, so you can decide to keep it, and when it settles, you can put it back. And yes, there are so many landmines in court on the way to removing brain tumor. And for most brain tumors, the margin of error is so small, sometimes 1 millimeter. Wow. And that is why many times when you want to, when neurosurgeons are about to remove brain tumor, they need a microscope that could magnify every tissue 10, 15 times. Then you could see, oh, this is a knife I shouldn't touch. This is a blood vessel I shouldn't cut. So there are so many landmines on the way, and you have to tell the patient, see, all these are possible. But before a neurosurgeon would attempt such, he must have done so many. He would know what lies behind what. He would know the parts in code, in 3D, so that you know where to go, where not to go. Then you could see, then you could be careful. But even at that, sometimes, with our best interest in mind, I mean, with the best interest of the patient in mind, some stuff still do happen, unfortunately.
So someone did a fibroid mammectomy, right, of a fibroid, and somehow the uterus started bleeding. Does this happen in brain surgeries, and do they heal if such a thing happens, or does it affect the entire?
So it does happen, unfortunately. And that is why the surgeon has to be careful. Do they heal? Fortunately, yes. In many instances, the brain is quite unforgiving when you make a mistake, but sometimes you get away with some of them. So it may initially be very poor, but over time, with physiotherapy, with rehabilitation, you would never know there was a problem.
You know, when you're talking about seeing in 3D, reminded me of Ben Carson's book, Gifted Hands. I don't know, it was just inspiring, a neurosurgeon in America. I'm sure you've heard of him. And in that book, you know, for a young man at the time reading it, it highlighted how careful the neurosurgeon had to be. And here in Nigeria, we have this belief that Nigerians, we're not into the tiny details, we can be careless. And so you find someone who wants to do a surgery of this, you know, magnitude, rather go to the Oyibo man, who is known to be careful, understands tiny details. What sort of surgeons would you say we have in Nigeria? I mean, apart from you, of course, and the success story that we're talking about now, like, what can you say for your colleagues here in Nigeria who are neurosurgeons and doing their job successfully?
Before you answer that question, let me take this call. Mrs. Ojo has called in from Alakbere. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning, ma. Good morning. Thank you. Please, I want to ask you just a question. Because now they said there is no more neurosurgeon in Nigeria. So it's very difficult to get him. So how can we get this up for now? Because we have so many people at hand now that need neurosurgeon doctors.
Okay, so that's a very valid question. According to what she's saying, she heard that there are no more neurosurgeons in Nigeria. That how do you now get a very qualified person? But before you answer that, take Mariam's question.
Good.
Well, I think more or less
Similar.
they're similar. I would say clearly that there are neurosurgeons in Nigeria. At the last count, we're probably about 100. And these are 100 people that have been well trained. None of them spent less than 5 years, 4 or 5 years, in training to become a neurosurgeon. So yes, there are neurosurgeons. No neurosurgeon will be careless. All neurosurgeons are taught to pay attention to details because the margin of error is 0 to 1 millimeter. So and the best time to do brain tumor is the very first time. So it has to be right the first time and every time. About the facility, yes, there are facilities to make surgery safe, but not all states of the Federation has enough to do some of this surgery. You realize that there are two different things I'm talking about. The surgeon is well trained, but do we have the facilities?
Yeah.
So some centers have enough facilities. Some, they're still struggling, and the attention will be that the government should pay enough attention to such area and make sure the facilities are available.
NEPA can't take light during surgery.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't happen.
Someone like Ruth, that I know NEPA takes lights, what would happen?
No, I don't think that happens anymore.
In
For
Ruth?
the past 5 years or so, I'm not quite sure, but about 5 years, we have uninterrupted power supply in Road and in the theater.
Is that generator or NEPA gongo?
I think the management was good enough to get a power plant that is completely off the grid of the national grid. So there is almost always electricity.
I'm so happy to hear this because we don't hear this enough. When things shut down, you will hear it all over social media, but this is a good information and we're happy to hear that, really. I was just checking neurosurgeon, neurologist, and in the wake of Japa and many doctors leaving, this is a bit outside brain tumor, but it's just something that it's been in my head. When I see a very high-ranking doctor, I would ask the doctor that, okay, why are you still here? And what can we do to get more people like you to remain here?
Well, that's a very important question. People are staying for different reasons, and many people are leaving for different reasons. But if we are to build the country, we can't all go. Some would have to stay and do what they have to do to the best of their ability, and also train other people to go. To practice as much. Because it's so easy for somebody to leave, but it's going to be difficult to live with your father, mother, cousins, brothers, and so. So we have to stay back and build our country. And I think I didn't answer your question about the skills and people going abroad. I want us to be clear that going abroad doesn't mean that you are safe. If I have done 500 cases of a particular tumor, and you're going to somewhere abroad that the person operating you has done only 5, we can't be on the same plane, regardless of what they have. So I don't think everybody should say, look, I must go once there's a brain tumor. It doesn't work that way. And what about the supporting system? What happens when you're there? What happens if there are complications? I think we should build our system. More would stay, some would go, but we don't have any other country. We have to build Nigeria.
As in, honestly, thank you so much for that. There is another, in that same Japa and medical challenges situation, you spoke to the issues with, there's the other half of that question, which is that what can we do as a government, what can we do as a people to make the system work better for, and I know that the issues affect everybody. It's not just medical system that people are living from, but what will be the core of what the doctors are complaining about that is making them go, and what can we do to make them want to come back?
So there are push and pull factor. If there is a neurosurgeon in a particular center without operating theater, without operating microscope, without a supporting system, and I think at this point I must say that neurosurgery is not a one-man show. I need an assistant, I need a qualified anesthetist, I need people in ICU to look after the patient when I'm gone, I need younger colleagues to look after the patient. So there's a lot of things, there's a lot of reasons why somebody may want to go, sometimes far from the money. But to answer the question directly, what can we do? We should encourage those that are behind, number one. Number two, particularly in neurosurgery, state government should make equipment available for safe neurosurgery in each state of the federation. And the federal government, which is what has been happening in other parts of the world, should have a regional neurosurgical center that can do the high-end surgery. So the state or the individual local government could do the bread and butter of neurosurgery, borehole here, repair a few things. The state could do a bit higher, and the national could, I mean, there should be like a national neurosurgical center. There is a national neurosurgical center in Queens, I mean, in London, the Queen's Hospital. So if we could have that, maybe in 6 geopolitical zones of the country, you'll find that there is actually nothing we can do in the country. It may even surprise you that some people would go abroad. It's Nigerian neurosurgeons that would treat them.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
So let me take a call. Mrs. Ladiji has called in from Jos. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, ladies?
Very well, thank you, ma.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. And continue to tell your husband I'm grateful for allowing you people to be on this program. God bless them. I want to buttress this neurosurgeon claim. I'm an 11-year colorectal cancer patient. My surgery was carried on by Professor Ismaila in Unijos Teaching Hospital. My children were doing everything possible for them to carry me abroad. I told them no. Whatever they can do in Nigeria, I would rather die in Nigeria than to be carried in a box from another country. And, my surgeon, I was told that I was in the theater for like 6 hours or so. But, the care I got, no matter where they carry me to, I don't think I can ever get that care. We have wonderful surgeons, wonderful doctors in Nigeria. We should please try to encourage them and insist that the government must do the right thing. When they have the right thing to work with, they are better than the abroad one, I'm telling you, honestly speaking.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting.
The vote of confidence for
videos from India where Nigerians go and
it's terrible.
The aftercare is terrible.
Even post-surgery, pre-surgery, pre-care. Once you are there, you have no protection. So.
It's terrible. There's this Adeoye Oladayo, sorry, who has been tubing about his mom who had a stroke. He says, my mom is the person that eats garlic, ginger, in fact, healthy eating and food. Wow, so I wonder where the hemorrhagic stroke came from.
So stroke, there are different types of stroke. There is a ischemic one, which literally is a dry one. There's no active bleeding in the brain. It just means that the blood supply to the brain is cut off. There is the active one, or the hemorrhagic one. And it has nothing to do with garlic or whatever. It is about lifestyle. If somebody is hypertensive, is prone to developing hemorrhagic stroke. And if it happens, it could be a disaster. Mm-hmm. So all he has to do, apart from eating whatever he likes, is to keep fit and watch his blood pressure. And I must say this, many people don't know about their blood pressure, unfortunately. And there are few people that know that they are hypertensive. And they just ignore it. They say, no, I don't want to treat anything.
And ginger would reduce it.
Unfortunately, yes. And I've seen people that would present with hemorrhagic stroke, even though they knew they were hypertensive, but they were never taking antihypertensive medications.
So without medications, they can't control the conditions. They must be on
tell.
medication.
So once the blood pressure starts rising, except something brings it down, it keeps going. And increase, I mean, that blood pressure that is increasing means there's a lot of pressure within the blood vessel. And it's just like balloon. If you keep blowing it, after some time it will blow. So if the blood pressure keeps going higher and higher, in the brain, the pressure is felt, it's a matter of time it will rupture. And when it ruptures, it is a disaster.
So,
Ibrahim, we have a call.
Can you come back?
Yeah, Ibrahim. Ibrahim has called in from Abuja. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Mr. Ibrahim.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. The little surgeon said one of the signs of possibility of tumor is constant headache. And most people, when they have this constant headache, it is said to be migraine. Is there any relationship with migraine and tumor in the brain?
Go to the hospital.
I think, well, not particularly, but I would say it this way. Any headache that doesn't go should be investigated. Especially if the headache is worse in the morning and gets better by day. It could be a sign that there is something going on in the brain. Now, when you use the word migraine, for many people on the road, on the street, it means a headache that is always there. And it could be ordinary headache, it could be headache from tumor, it could be the migraine type headache, it could be so many things. I think what we should go away with is that if the headache is coming and it's not going after 3 days, you should see the doctor. And if it keeps coming back week after week, month after month, you should get the brain scanned. It would be better off to have a negative brain scan, which means that I've done the brain scan, there's nothing there, than not to do the brain scan and 5 years later now realize that the tumor had been there for a long time. I would say that for a particular type of tumor, like meningioma, it takes like 5 years for the tumor to be 1 centimeter. So most times, the tumor had been there years before it is diagnosed. And the person would say, or would agree, that the headache has been on for 5 years, 10 years, well, just like every other headache. So I think to answer the call, if there's headache that has refused to go, the head should be investigated.
So I would like to ask, there's a tweet here who says, I'm literally taking notes. That's for Shida Favor. I'm inspired by you, sir. I'm an aspiring neurosurgeon currently in med school. Right? And I wanted to even ask what you think about our education here in Nigeria, especially medical school. We have a lot of people that are working hard to be able to go abroad to school. Is it better there, or are medical schools doing a good job here, and we're sure to have even more neurosurgeons from our medical schools here in Nigeria?
I think our medical school is fantastic. I trained here, University of Lagos College of Medicine, and I know many other neurosurgeons in Nigeria that trained locally. I also know many other neurosurgeons in US, in England, in the Middle East that trained locally. The current president of the World Federation of Neurosurgical Society, the #1 neurosurgeon in the world, trained in Nigeria.
Wow.
It's medical school in Nigeria. So the guy or the lady that is planning to be a neurosurgeon, I will encourage him or her to keep at it. It is possible. Our medical doctors are not inferior to any doctor anywhere in the world.
Thank you, sir.
It's just tools that they don't have.
Our neurosurgeons are equally fantastic. In fact, the type of tumor that some of us take out in Nigeria, they'll probably not see it in the US because it's always large, it's quite complex, and they see it very, very early and they quickly take it out. We see it
at
when it is
advanced stage.
So our education is good.
Honestly, we're out.
Are we out of time?
Yes.
No way.
Have you not seen the time?
If you trained here, but you went abroad and came back?
Yes. So I did my medical school here. I started my residency here in University of Lagos College of Medicine. I did fellowship in Australia. I did 2 years in England. I did fellowship in Germany. and US. I went around a little bit.
Interesting.
Came back.
Came back, all right.
Thank
so,
you for coming back.
honestly, you came to educate us about brain tumor, but you've left us inspired. You know, you've renewed our hope in the medical system in Nigeria. And I'm sure many people watching right now would be more excited about going to visit the hospitals. And those who want surgery will not be scared that things might go wrong. And I think we need more messages like this being pushed to Nigeria in this season.
Please come back on the show.
Yes, please.
We need to talk more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
That's
much.
all we can take on the show today. I'm sure you learned something. We'll be seeing you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you.